Thanks for listening to Live Forever Young Radio. Biohacking is a relatively new idea that consists of making small, incremental diet or lifestyle changes to help make improvements in health and well-being. Today on the show, Bob and Rollie cover the physical and emotional ways you can apply biohacking to your health. They discuss some of the new science and technology being utilized today that can help unlock your best you and share some great resources to help give you a head start. Tune in to learn some simple ways to start biohacking your physical and mental health so you can elevate your wellness to the next level. So sit back, relax, and get ready to live forever young.
Hello everyone, welcome to Live Forever Young Radio. I'm Bob. I'm here with Rollie. How you doing, Rollie?
Good, Bob. How's it going today, man?
I'm doing well, thank you. We were just talking, before we started about the Lightning, the hockey team, which has won the Stanley Cup 2 years in a row.
They're going for 3.
Looking for a three-peat, which has only been done a few times in history.
Last time was a long time ago that they did 3.
It was like the Islanders.
It was the Islanders.
I think they might have won 4.
It was the Islanders. It was in the 70s, and it was 4.
There you go. So
very good, Bob.
A three-peat is a very hard thing to do in the world of hockey.
And you know what a lot of those guys do, man, and how they get their health to the next level, and especially someone like Tom Brady, who lasted, 44 years?
He's played till he was 44.
Right.
And he played 22 years in the pros. Plus he played in college.
Yeah, U of M, baby, U of M.
So probably about 30 years altogether, of his 44, he was playing competitive football.
Right.
And he was a master biohacker.
You read my mind.
Which is what we're going to talk about today.
Exactly. He's sitting back there reading everything he can, learning about nutrients and health, and he's biohacking his health to be the best of all time, really.
And one of the things he's going to do when he, now that he's retired, he's going to be giving more information and support to people in general about how to be in their best health.
Right.
He did, share some information about what he did to stay strong for so long. But now that he's retired, I think he's going to release all of his secrets.
Yeah, and I guess there's going to be a revolution in biohacking, I would think, because of all the stuff he has and what we're going to share. You'll be able to really be the best you.
I think when he comes out, like with a book, we should do a book review.
Oh, for sure.
On Live Forever Young Radio.
Dude, I'll pre-order it.
Yeah, there you go. Me too. So, what is biohacking, right? So biohacking is using science and technology for your own purposes, so you can be your own best self, whether it's your physical health, your emotional health, spiritual health, and each person is an individual.
Right.
And so, especially biochemically, right, there's a book called Biochemical Individuality. And it was one of the textbooks for my certificate in holistic nutrition, right? And so each person's a little different, and so you want to be a biohacker for your own self, for your own body, for your own mind, for your own spiritual, endeavor.
Yeah, man.
Right?
For getting
better. So there's been a number of books written on this, right? One of them by Dave Asprey is called Superhuman, and it's his version of how to biohack your physical health, what to look for, what to modify, all that type of thing. And then there's one that's more of mental, emotional, spiritual, that was written by Dr. Joe Dispenza, called Becoming Supernatural.
Yes.
And so that's another really great book. Some of it is biohacking, some of it's other things.
Right.
It's really great. And then as we talk later in the show about food and sugar and that type of thing, there are a couple of books we'll mention by J.J. Virgin.
Definitely.
Right?
Some really good ones.
And then also when we later talk about habits and happiness, biohacking your happiness.
Right.
There's a book called Wishcraft by Barbara Scher that we'll talk a little bit about.
Sounds good, man.
Right. And so in regard to the physical part, Rollie, blood testing is obviously the most obvious biohacking you can do, right?
Right.
Get a blood test, maybe a saliva test, a urine test, and you can tell things about yourself that are areas of improvement.
Right.
And then you need information about how to improve those things.
Right, you kind of get a baseline, right? You can figure out
Yep.
where you're at, look at things like, one of the things that we always tell people, and you really want to be careful of because it causes aging and damages inflammation, right? You want to be aware of what your inflammation levels are. So there's a test you can take that actually helps with that called C-reactive protein, or a CRP test.
Yeah, that's probably the holy grail of biohacking, is to know your CRP and to know how to get it down. And when we talk about nutrients later, we'll go over that.
Yeah.
But also really good ones to get are your hormone tests. So your adrenal hormones, your thyroid hormones, your sex hormones, which starts with pregnenolone, and then DHEA, testosterone, free testosterone, cortisol, and the like, right? And so if you were to get all those hormone tests together, including the reverse T3 when you get your thyroid.
Yeah, you always mention that. Check that reverse T3.
And you'll have a pretty good picture of your overall hormones. Now, it's not everything. The hormonal system is very complex, and actually your thymus makes certain hormones that are actually not exactly the same, but they're look-alike hormones for other ones that are made in different places.
Okay.
Right? And so there's a whole science of endocrinology, and people get board certified. Medical doctors get board certified in that.
Yeah.
But to start with, those tests are very valuable. Also, make sure you check your vitamin D3.
Right. Yeah, we talk to people all the time, and they say, "Hey, I don't have any energy, and I've been taking, I've been taking this, I've been taking that." And we ask them, "Well, have you had your D3 levels checked?" And a lot of the times they go, "Well, I had my blood test done." And we'll say, "Yeah, but did you ask them to do the D3?" Because they don't actually do it automatically.
Right.
And one of the weirdest things is, like, D3 is one of the best tests for your overall health. When you actually look and see, that's one of the best markers of your overall health. So you want to ask for that, because if you don't have enough D3, there's a lot of stuff. We've talked on other shows about D3, how it helps express your genes, right? How it helps with your bone health and things like that. So there's a lot of things, and neurologically and immune system-wise it can help with. So always check D3. It's very vital.
Yeah. That, and also check your iron. If you're low in iron, you're going to have low energy.
Right.
If you're high in iron, you're also going to have low energy. So make sure that your number, there's different types of iron tests, make sure your number is around 30%, right? So you don't want it to be right in the middle or high. A little below the middle is the sweet spot.
For the iron.
Yeah. And then you can also get tests for heavy metal toxicity.
Yeah, we did a show. One of our last shows was on heavy metal toxicity.
Yeah.
And that can do a lot of damage that you don't even really realize. Yeah. And especially if you come into contact with it often, it's really important to get those things out with something like a chelating agent or something.
Yeah. So that's like the basics of biohacking. Now, what do people do in regard to interventions to become superhuman?
Right, exactly. How do we get to that
become
level?
Supernatural? So there's different categories of things. One is there are now electronics, or we'll call it electronics as a overarching category. But it's really about frequencies, right? So frequencies is really the stuff of life. So we're sitting here in a field, in the quantum field, so to speak. And as we speak to each other, and we speak into the microphones, which through technology goes out over the airways on all the different platforms, okay, people are listening, and what they're getting is a frequency. And a frequency is hitting their ear, right? And it's being interpreted inside their brain. But it starts out as a wave, as a frequency, right? Now, light is the same way. Light, there isn't really such a thing as light. Light is also a frequency. Light is a wave that's moving through the field.
Right.
It's being projected from somewhere, and it's a wave. Our physical senses perceive it as light.
Light and
right?
different colors.
But in fact, it's an invisible wave. But because of the way that wave hits our eyes, we perceive it as light. And so You can manipulate sound and light in very specific ways to have a positive effect on your brain and your body, because you have photoreceptors on the surface of your cells, right? And these photons of light, these waves, can actually pass right through your body. And so inside your body, on the interior of your body, you can absorb light.
Whoa.
And light is coming from the sun. Light can be artificial, like here in this studio. And you can also get a form of light. In a sense, you can't really see it as light, but it's the same type of waves are coming from the core of the earth, right? We just don't perceive those as light, but they actually are hitting our body, and they're having a profound effect on our circulation, for example, right? And so what are you going to do to manipulate things? Well, number one, with sound, people listen to music, right? If part of biohacking is how can I be calm, cool, and collected, people have their favorite music that makes them feel calm, right? You can also use what's called hemispheric synchronization or hemisync technology, which is wearing a set of headphones and playing some sounds through those headphones that will change the brain waves so that you can sync up both hemispheres of your brain to vibrate in approximately the same frequency.
Wow.
And it feels really good. Your left and right brain begin functioning together better, and you become more creative. You become more what I would call in meta position, meaning when you have hemisync, you have the ability to see your mind and watch your thoughts, your beliefs, your patterns, and to see what effect they're having on you and your body.
Cool.
And modify them. And so hemisync technology is really valuable. It's been around for quite a few years, but not a lot of people use it. But check that out. And then, of course, light itself. There's laser light, and there's near infrared and infrared lights, blue light lasers that people use. I have a light that puts out both near infrared and infrared, and it hangs on the back of my door. It's about 2.5 feet wide by about 5 feet tall, and you turn it on, and boom, these lights come on, and you stand in front of it 5 minutes on the front, 5 minutes on the back, and your body is absorbing this beneficial light that without the negative aspects of the sunlight.
Gotcha. So you're getting all the benefits without the UV and things like
all
that.
All the good and none of the bad.
This sounds like, I'm glad you brought that up, because as much as important as it is to absorb the good light, you also want to block out the bad light. And so you can, like my wife and I, have these blue blocker glasses that you use when you're on the phone or on watching a lot of TV. If you get into
your computer.
If you get into a Netflix and chill night and you're sitting there for hours and you want to avoid the blue light exposure, you can wear these glasses that will block those out. Right? And so that's another thing. Yes, absolutely. Right before bed, limiting blue light can actually help lower brain activity.
Right. And this is biohacking sleep.
Biohacking 101, baby.
Yeah, you also have what are PEMFs, which, in a sense, the light and PEMF is one and the same thing. There's technology to reflect light that is coming off of your own body. So your body is actually putting out what is referred to as light. It's actually a wave form that's coming off your body, and that's how you release heat. And it turns out that there's a spectrum, a part of the spectrum of the near infrared that is being put off by your body. You can't see it, but it's being put off. A near infrared bulb shows up as white. You can't see any color from it. And so you can't see this heat that's coming off your body, but you can reflect it back into your body. And so there's a company called LifeWave that has these little patches.
Right.
And they have nanocrystals in them of varying types that will reflect a tiny bit of that spectrum of near-infrared light back into your body, and they know that that light is going to activate your genome. It's going to actually create genetic expression that is designed. So in the case of their X39 patch, it's designed to reflect the genetic expression of copper peptide that powers up your adult stem cells. And so this is a biohacking that was discovered by a brilliant scientist some 10 years ago.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked a little bit about stem cells, actually quite a bit about them, when we had Ann on. We had a show called Stem Cells Need Nutrition Too, where we talk a lot about PEMF and as well as proliferation of adult stem cells. But what you're talking about now is really pretty interesting.
Yeah, and you also have regular electric stim that's not electromagnetic,
right?
But just electric, and they use it for pain. You can use it for building muscle.
Right.
You can use it for burning fat, that type of thing. They're usually pads that you put onto your body, and in the case of your head, you can put electric stim on your head with the Fisher-Wallace stimulator, which is FDA approved for your head, and it'll run a square wave that is pulsed through your brain, and it'll have a positive effect on people that have depression or anxiety or insomnia, and it's FDA approved for actually treating these things. So that's a great biohack.
It's a really good one.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of people. It's funny. Just real quick, the electrical stim has been around for a while, but a lot of people don't really realize how they are. And just in the recent, I don't know, last 3 or 5 years, I've started to see, mainstream ones, little ones you can buy, commercials for these little ones. So, check it out, because if you are experiencing, stuff, neurologically and then muscle-wise that needs to be stimulated and worked out, these can actually help a lot with it.
Yeah. Well, as you age, your body goes through life.
Right.
You go through the trauma of being born. You go through the trauma of falling down when you first learn to walk. You go through the first day of school. You go through traumas at your household. You go through trauma being an adolescent.
Right.
And then going off to college.
Right.
And maybe you like to participate in sports, and now you're hurting yourself. Maybe you get into an accident, right? So by the time you get to be my age, almost 66 years old, your body has been through lots of trauma, and your brain too. And so electric stim, along with neuromuscular therapies, massage therapies, can be very helpful in releasing all this pent-up tension and trauma that's holding you back from being your best self, which is the idea of biohacking.
Right, biohacking your best self, man.
Yeah, and so there's a great place here in our town called the St. John's Clark Center that helps you to release all that stuff from your trauma of your life.
Well, muscles have memory. Muscles remember stuff.
They do. And St. John's Clark has people scattered around the country too that will help with that. And you also have heart rate variability.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And we did a whole show on that called Finding Your Inner Balance.
Yep, Finding Your Inner Balance, man. And that's where we talk a lot about the phenomenon of your heart-mind connection. Yeah,
and this is the ultimate demonstration of biohacking, because you can get these little devices. They're like $150-something, clip it on your ear, sync it up to an app on your cell phone, and you can look at what's going on
with your heart
muscle.
Yep.
And by default, you know what's going on in your brain.
Correct.
Because your heart muscle is sending a signal to your amygdala, which is signaling your frontal cortex, which is signaling your heart. And you can look on your screen and go, this is where I am right now. And then do specific exercises, games with your mind, what you're going to focus on, and using your breath. And you can watch the progress in real time. Yeah, it's actually quite interesting to have, in the age of instant gratification with instant feedback. Yeah. I can't think of any other more instantaneous biohack that you can see results from than that. Literally in front of you, as you change your mindset and your thought, you can see the readout. And probably in regard to, all the different things you can do, it's right up there tied for the most important, because it's an indication of how stressed out your brain and body is. Exactly. And no matter how good your food choices are and your nutrient choices, if you're under stress, you're still going to be sick. That cortisol will kill you. Yeah. But speaking of food, Okay. So if you're going to biohack your food, all right, a lot of people have sensitivities to food. Some people are allergic to foods. Some people are deathly allergic to food.
Yes.
And they find out as time goes by, oh, I ate that and I broke out in a rash.
Or I can't breathe.
Right.
Or
That's
whatever.
pretty obvious. But there's also a lot of subtleties that you might not even notice are foods that are kryptonite for you. And you might not notice that this food is really good for me. And so there are tests you can get. There's tests you can get that'll tell you how sensitive you are to all different things. So I got one of these tests.
Yeah.
I only had one sensitivity to a food, which was chocolate.
Wow.
Right? And so
That's
what I
horrible.
did, I used to put chocolate collagen into my bulletproof coffee in the
Right.
morning. So I switched it. Once I found that out, I switched it to regular, unflavored collagen.
Did you notice anything different?
I didn't. But the point is, it's subtle, it's there, but it was only a small difference that it was making where I couldn't perceive it. But it was like, let's change it anyway.
But you
because
don't-
over time,
Right.
too much chocolate could have a negative effect.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I was just about to say, if you're not eating a lot of chocolate all at once, right, and you don't feel the effect, then that's fine. But built up over time,
Yeah.
and if one day you decide to go on a chocolate smorgasbord, you ain't going to be feeling good.
Right. The next day you won't feel well.
That's not good.
And one other thing I was allergic to was bumblebees, which I already knew.
Isn't everybody allergic to bumblebees?
Well, no, mine was
Severe.
I used to work on farms, and there were bees everywhere.
Okay.
And so the bees would buzz in your face, and we would just slap them aside, right? One day, a bee got stuck between two of my fingers and stung my finger, and my whole arm swelled up.
Holy crud.
So I knew that type of bee, that bumblebee, I was allergic to. Wasps, I got stung by wasps
Never
later
had
in
one.
life. Nothing happened.
Weird.
But when I got this test, this biohacking test, it showed allergic
Bumblebees.
to bumblebees. Yeah.
Wow.
And so it's like just confirmed. I haven't been stung by a bee since I was a teenager.
Don't
right?
go
Because I
digging in
avoid
it.
them. I don't try to slap them
I was
aside.
just going to say,
like,
don't go
whoa,
digging
get
in
away.
any bees
Exactly.
nests, dude.
But that's biohacking,
That's
right?
funny.
And so with food, there's a really great book called The Virgin Diet.
Oh, yeah.
And J.J. Virgin shows you how to go through step by step by step to identify the foods that are good for you and the foods that you want to eliminate. Now, the other issue is, when do you eat food?
Right.
So some people will wake up in the morning and they'll say, man, I don't feel good today. I ate too late last night. I didn't eat until 10 o'clock, right? So this is a biohacking. So find your sweet spot. Do you eat your last meal at 5, 6? Do you eat breakfast in the morning? Or are you going to just take your nutrients and your bulletproof coffee? It's up to you. Some people have to eat some type of food.
Right.
Some people have to eat protein in the morning. Some people need carbohydrates to get their brain started. Other people need good fats to get their brain started. So you need to figure all of this out for yourself.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like me, I'm not a big breakfast person, right? And I actually don't eat a lot of lunch, but I didn't think it was a big deal. And then I had a little stomach issue, and I realized I think a lot of it was due to the fact that I'm not eating enough. You know what I mean? Like I'm not eating often enough, so the little bit I do eat sits in there too long, and it causes an issue. So you gotta realize, you gotta find, like he said, not only the sweet spot, but what your body works the best with as far as being able to, take it in, get energy, eliminate it efficiently, and at the same time it not causing any other issues down there.
Yeah. Now, one of the biggest things for people, Raleigh, is sugar. Most people eat too much sugar, and part of the reason is they don't know there's hidden sugars in certain foods. So J.J. Virgin wrote another book for us called The Sugar Impact Diet, where she does all the work for you. Here's where the sugars are. Here's what to eat instead.
Yep.
Right? Now, what to eat instead, you try and see how you feel.
Right.
Right? And
We did a show actually called America's Sugar Addiction, where we go into a little bit more about that too.
And so the next thing is, Raleigh, is nutrients. And a lot of people think about this first when they think about biohacking. Which nutrition supplements can I take to magically help make me better?
Yep.
Right? And you had mentioned earlier a big thing about inflammation.
Yes.
So inflammation is something that occurs naturally inside humans just as part of aerobic life.
Right.
And we did a whole show on inflammation.
Correct.
Right? But some people have generally higher inflammation on a constant basis than other people, and they're aging faster, and they're much more likely to get a disease, a life-threatening disease, if their inflammation is high.
Right.
So you want to know with the CRP you mentioned, and then what do you do to get it down? There are nutrients that will get your CRP down.
Correct.
Right? Superoxide dismutase, trimethylglycine, the ACE vitamins,
A, C, and E.
selenium, zinc, things like that. And so when you know that your CRP is high, above 1, okay, is considered high.
Right.
The average person is 3.
Right. So
And so you want to get it down ideally to 0.5 or below. And using these nutrients, which we have purposefully made sure are in our company's nutrition products,
Yeah.
help people to get their CRP way down.
yeah, particularly you'd mentioned that superoxide dismutase, and they call that the holy grail of anti-aging and inflammation reduction, and it is such an efficient thing. It's like Pac-Man, you say. Everybody knows Pac-Man. You go around, you gobble up all the things, and then you clear the board and you move on because you did good. And so in a way, this SOD molecule works like that with free radicals and inflammation. And so the reason why that's important, right, is because the more inflammation you have, the faster you age, just like Bob said. And how do you get inflammation fighting nutrients, right? Something like SOD is very, very, very specialized. A lot of people don't know the half-life of it's 10 minutes. So in most cases, if you're getting a supplement that says it's got SOD in it, right, you got to think to yourself, well, what was the process on this? Because if they extract that molecule, they only have 10 minutes to work with it. One of the things that we've done and our scientists has figured out with our sprouted barley seeds is how to get that SOD active molecule and stabilize it, so you don't lose any of the power of the antioxidant. Because what good is it if you get it home and by the time you take it, it doesn't have anything in it?
Your CRP won't go down.
It won't. And this is a way to tell if this is actually working. That CRP level will be your indicator that, well, yeah, this is working. This SOD I'm taking is really working.
Absolutely.
I have a lot of people that said that too.
Yeah, it's really working. The other thing is the building of your body. So your body is constantly being torn down
Always.
by life, okay? And you're making new cells, and you're also making new proteins within those cells. So to make those new proteins, we know you need amino acids and metabolic enzymes.
And
so you need to have a supplement that has those in it. The vast majority of all supplements do not have any metabolic enzymes.
Do they even know what metabolic enzymes are? Metabolic enzymes are the enzymes that build you back up.
Exactly.
Right? Digestive enzymes break stuff down.
Right. Exactly. And so you need to make sure you have that, but also your body is constantly making adult stem cells. As soon as you're born, your body shifts from making a specific type of embryonic stem cell to making adult stem cells.
Wow.
And those adult stem cells move throughout your blood. They're made in your bone marrow. They're released from bones in your nose, your hips, etc. And they migrate all through your body in the bloodstream, and they morph into liver cells, eye cells, etc. And this is how you renew yourself.
Right.
So there's actually a supplement that we have in our other products section that's called Aloe Immune.
Yes, it's called Aloe Immune.
Yeah. And it helps your bone marrow make and release more adult stem cells.
I was going to say, so you actually answered my question before I asked it. So that works upon the bone marrow, and it releases from that. So you're making your own stem cells. It's not like you're eating stem cells.
Right.
You're actually releasing new ones that you've generated, so they can actually get to where it needs to be repaired with your own DNA intact.
Yes. And so,
cool.
Earlier on, we mentioned about, the patches for light.
Yes.
Right?
X39.
Well, those are working together with your new stem cells, because that light is making those new stem cells that you're making more of now. it's making them act like they're very young again. Because as you age, you make less of the copper peptide that keeps your adult stem cells young and functioning really well. Right? And so these are great biohacks for keeping your body constantly revitalized with biohacking.
Yeah, that's great.
And so the other thing is we have an epigenome. Now you talked about you talked about vitamin D3 earlier, right? And so we have genes that sit and the genes are part of your DNA, and it's wrapped up by a protein sheath, metaphorically here.
Yeah.
It's all vibrations when you get down to it.
But
and then
protection.
certain things will ping that sheath and splay it open that allows for the copying of the code that's there, mostly for making proteins. Okay? And so there are certain things we know that if you take them, they will activate certain genes.
Okay.
And so we know, for example, if you take resveratrol,
Right.
which is in grapes, and other things, right?
Polygonal
it will
root.
activate the gene that stimulates to make human telomerase. And human telomerase is a molecule, of extremely complex molecule, that helps to keep your telomeres intact. And we know that another biohack you can do is to measure the length of your telomeres.
Right.
They're little tails on the ends of your chromosomes. The shorter they are, the closer you are to death.
Yes.
And so
Very scary.
to activate the creation of telomerase, which helps to keep them long, we know that resveratrol activates that gene. Right?
That's crazy.
Called a polyphenol. Resveratrol is a polyphenol that's in grapes. Okay, so you can do a biohack, which is what's the length of my telomeres? What do we know from science are all the things that help keep them long, and ingest them.
Yeah, man. It's funny. It was the first time you talked to me about telomeres, I was like, that's kind of weird. So it's kind of like basically the end of the DNA there, and as it gets used up, it gets shorter and shorter and shorter, and it gets used when you make copies.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a copy machine, and you run out of paper.
It's information.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So you got this copy machine, it's printing off all these things, and then you get to the end, and there's nothing left.
Right. No more copies.
We better go get a ream of paper. No, I wish it was that easy. It's not.
So that's the nutritional part of it,
Right?
In a very very
Condensed
quick way.
version.
We have another podcast on the supplement pyramid, which goes more into it, and stuff on stem cells, right? Also, we talked a little earlier about traumas,
Right.
Both physical traumas. We talked about the St. John's Clark Center,
Right.
but also mental traumas.
Right.
Stress from your childhood, stress from a divorce, stress from a death in your family, stress from being in a war. Okay? And this had profound negative effects on your body and your brain. And so you want to know about things like somato-emotional release, which is a part of the field of craniosacral therapy. You can look it up on the internet. Right?
Yes.
But releasing the negative effects of trauma with various techniques is really valuable biohacking. You're biohacking what's going on in your body because of trauma. Where is it stored? How do I get rid of it?
We've had a lot of people actually that we've helped who are taking I've noticed a lot of this affects sleep of people. A lot of people who can't sleep. Oh, I've been taking this melatonin. I took your good night formula, and I just still can't sleep. And then you get into a little bit about asking them, did you have any major issues with a traumatic incident? And then they list off 15 things that would cripple a normal person's mental capacity. But they're acting like they're normal. This is what Bob's talking about. These things that you think you're over and you think you're through can actually still physically affect you long after what you think is over in your mind is over. And this is what this craniosacral therapy concept does. It helps you to get to that root and try to reverse that and get your body to follow suit. And I can think of at least 3 to 5 people that have been very similar with a similar situation where I couldn't sleep or I'm overly tired or whatever it was, and then we suggest this through the Upledger Institute.
Right.
We hook them up with whoever's around them they go for a couple sessions, they call us back and say, my God, I could sleep like a rock now, or whatever the case was.
And anybody can do that on their own. Just go to upledger.com, UPLEDGER, and there's a search place. If you click advanced search, you get to select the type of therapy you want. Look for somato-emotional release. Click on it, put in your zip code, boom. You'll find the person close to you who's certified in that.
Absolutely. Right? If you guys have any problems, give us a call.
Yep, give us a call if you want help with that. Rollie, the last couple of things, habits and beliefs. Right? Because you can do biohacking, you can do all the diagnostics, and you can have all the best intentions. You can get your light machines, your heart rate variability, get your nutrition products, start changing your diet. However, it's easy to revert back to the habits that you had before unless you really know the science of habits. And so without going into it a lot today, we did another podcast on habits.
Yeah, it's called Habits to Help Seize the Day. And we go over a thing called Tiny Habits there. Go check that out at liveforeveryoungradio.com.
So everything we're talking about today, you can install using the Tiny Habits technique.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's funny, we talk about this a lot here. Good health really starts with good habits. You could have the best intentions, but if you never act on them, you're not going to get anywhere.
Rollie, last thing I want to say is this. People can go through all this biohacking and maybe be healthy, but are they happy? Right? And a lot of times the answer is no.
Right.
And a big part of the reason is people tend to focus on obstacles as opposed to goals. And so whether the obstacle is real or imagined. Okay. And so it stops them from doing something they always wanted to do. Right. So there's a really good book that helps with this. It's called Wishcraft.
Oh, yeah.
WISH Craft. Right. Barbara Sher, SHER, is a brilliant psychologist that has helped thousands upon thousands of people all over the world to identify what they really want to do that will make them happy, and then how to eliminate the obstacles. And it goes on and on. She wrote many books, 12 books. And but if you start with her first book, which is kind of the overview of Wishcraft, you can identify things about yourself that are in that book. And whatever it is you identify, she's written another whole book about that.
Wow.
Right. And
That's
so, for example, she has, she talks a lot for people that have so many things they want to do and so many ideas that they never do anything.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so she's got a whole book for people that have that issue.
Wow.
With step-by-step advice.
Did you read that book, Bob? I think you must have read that book.
I haven't read it yet. No, but it's on order.
I'm just kidding.
It's on order.
Oh, man.
But Rollie, that's kind of the basic summary of biohacking.
Yeah, man, there's a lot to it.
It's more and more complex, but
do your own research. But this is a great start. And if you like this show, please like and subscribe. The more people that we can share this information with, the healthier we'll all be. So don't forget, like and subscribe. Live Forever Young Radio, you guys.
There you go. Thank you very much, Rollie.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us on Live Forever Young Radio. We'll see you on the next show.
Thanks for listening to Live Forever Young Radio. Check us out at liveforeveryoungradio.com.